this video I'm going to show you how to play Flip a Coin by Gossett. It's in standard tuning with the capo on the 4th fret. The intro and the verse have the same chords and a similar picking pattern throughout, so that's what we're going to start with. So chords we're going to use are C, G add 11, G6, A minor, and then F. We're going to start with the C chord, but before I show you all the hammer-ons, I just want you to get the picking pattern down. The picking pattern for each of these chords, for the most part, is going to be bass note, G, B, G, D, G. That's what it's going to be throughout a majority of the song. So starting with that C chord, you're going to play this. In this case, our bass note is going to be the 3rd fret of the A string, and if you want to do that hammer-on, you're going to pluck the A and D at the same time, but leave the D string open so you can hammer onto it. So A and D, hammer onto the 2nd fret, and then like I said, we're going to go G, B, G, D, G. You're going to do that twice. Then, if you want to do it without the hammer-on, you can do just A, G, B, G, D, G. Also twice. Next we're going to switch to a G add 11 chord, and that's just 3rd fret low E, 2nd fret A, 1st fret B. And again we're going to do that bass note, G, B, G, D, G. We're going to do that twice. You can also add a hammer on here to the 2nd fret of the A string if you want to. So you do that twice, then we're going to switch to a G6, and all you have to do is take the 1st fret off the B string, leave that open. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go E, G, B, G, D, G. Now that we're only going to do once, and then we're going to do E, D, and then pluck an open B and hammer onto the 1st fret, and then go to an open G. Leave a little bit of space between that 3rd fret of the E and the open D. So G6 is played like this. And those two together. Next we're going to move into an A minor. That's going to be played like this. So this one has a few extra steps to it, but again the picking pattern is going to be very similar. Starting with the 1st note, we're going to strum A and D at the same time, but leave the D string open so we can hammer onto the 2nd fret. Then G, B, G, D, G. Then we're going to go A, G, open high E, and then B, G, B. So that's where it changes. Then we're going to go A, G, 3rd fret high E, B, G, B. And then finally we're going to do A, G, open high E, B, and then we're going to go to the 3rd fret of the low E string. This one might be a stretch. I use my pinky, but you can switch any of your fingers to fit that 3rd note. So A minor all together. And then from that 3rd fret of the low E, we're walking down to an F, which is going to be our last chord. That's going to be E, D, B, G, D, G. Then we're going to go E, D, high E, B, G, B. Then back to the first way. And finally we're just going to pluck the 1st fret of the low E string and let it ring out. So F sounds like this. So altogether your intro should sound like this. Then we get into the verse. So if you learn the intro, the verse is going to be super easy because it's played almost exactly the same, just a couple of nuances. For example, starting with the C, this is how it's going to sound. Very similar to the intro. So you still have the A and D at the same time with the hammer on. Then you go B, G, D, G. But then you can just do an open D, hammer onto the second fret as your next bass note on the second time you do the picking pattern. So instead of doing this, you do this. It just breaks up those double notes. So I do it on the first and the third C, and then I just do the single hammer on the second and the fourth. G at 11 and G6, I do the same thing, hammer on the first and the third time. A minor, we're just not going to use the high E string, so you're going to pick it just like you would the C chord. On the fourth time you would play this. Instead you're just going to play open A and then down to the third fret of the low E to walk down to the F chord, which is the last one. And then F. So on the F chord, we just don't do the first fret of the high E that second time around. So like I said, very minor differences. You can play the intro version for all of the verses, or you can play the verse for the intro. Doesn't matter, it's still going to sound good. Now the only other part you need to learn for this song is the chorus, and it's going to sound like this. So the chorus starts off with a G bar chord, and you're basically just taking that F you ended on before and moving it up 2 frets. So you're barring the 3rd fret of all the strings, then you got 5th fret A and D, and 4th fret G. And we're going to continue the picking pattern we did before, so our bass note is going to be the 3rd fret of the low E, and you got E, D, B, G, D, G. And do that twice on the G chord. Then we're going to move to an A minor, then to F, and then C. And C is where it changes. The C is picked similar to the way you did in the intro. So we got that A and D hammer on, B, G, D, G. Then you're going to plug A and D at the same time, put the 2nd fret hammer on the D string, pause, and then you're going to pluck B on the 1st fret, and then pull off. So from F to C. Now from here we go to a G6 instead of going back to that bar chord. You can also play the G6 or regular G where that bar chord was. Still going to sound good. 3rd fret E as our bass note, D, B, G, D, G. Do that twice. Then we go to A minor. And then F. You're just going to do the 1st fret of the low E string, let it ring out. And then go to the 3rd fret of the low E, let that ring out. On the second chorus, he does play the F all the way through. And then does a G like this, where you pluck the 3rd fret of the low E and the 3rd fret of the B at the same time. But you can mix and match. Obviously, the single notes are easier. So the chorus all together, a little bit slower. And that's all you need to be able to play this song. If you have any questions or need any more help, feel free to leave a comment below. A link to the tabs are going to be in the description if you want to see them all the way through with the lyrics and play along without the video. And if you enjoyed this lesson, consider liking and subscribing, checking out my other videos. I have almost all of Dylan's other songs already posted. And that's all for now. I'll see you guys in the next video.